Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host. Here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Coach, it is Licking Our Wounds Tuesday. I guess that'd be better on a Monday. But we record on Tuesday, so here's what it is.
Yeah.
Took our first L of the season.
Okay.
Not even pretty. Poor execution, and the other team was really good.
That hurts. Makes it hard.
I expected more. But it gave us a great place to get off of. We were kind of on a emotional high from the previous win. So I guess if there's any consolations or good to come out of it, is the fact that it happened in our non-district play. So has absolutely nothing to do with us making the playoffs. It's just a learning lesson. And this week will be too. So it's good.
Yeah, that's one thing here. It's not that we've talked about before, is that every game counts. Basically, districts don't matter here. Districts have been pretty much dissolved other than awards and whatnot. And so the only thing that matters is your conference within your region. And that's, but it's all weird Virginia stuff from going decades without realignment.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have to lick my wounds.
Do you think they ever going to fix that? Or is it just, it is what it is?
As far as what we have here, it's fixed now. I mean, this is what we're not in we're still playing the old districts, but some teams are, some teams aren't. I mean, it just depends on, some teams completely got away from it. For example, some of the city schools here were really in bad shape because they were literally 2As. And just because they're in the city with, where they were at, the closest teams for them to play in their district were the surrounding county schools, which the surrounding counties grew, obviously, and became 4As, 5As, 6As, and they were still in the same district for years. Those schools have pretty much dropped all of that because at times it was completely non-competitive. And so they've fixed that. We've dropped some of, the school that I have been at for years as a 3A, dropped some of the 6As and kind of fixed it. There's a few that maybe aren't super competitive game, but for the most part, all the games have been competitive, at least at some point. Almost all of them have been competitive. They've been competitive with, the teams that are on the schedule, at least, at some point in the past few years. And so it's not, or they're the same size, and we play some of the really big dogs. And I think it's pretty much, it is what it is, and it's not a bad system. I like the system that we have now.
Well, that's good. There's a little. It's a little bit neat that other people's outcomes all season long matter.
Yeah,
your outcomes all season long matter. Like there's some arithmetic that has to be done. To where ours is legitimately is just
wins and losses. Yeah.
Wins and losses, and then point differential.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Yeah.
Your playoff points are, plus or minus. You can only gain 15 or lose 15 each week. So if you beat a team 70-0, you get 15 points.
Yeah.
If you get beat 15-0 or by 15 points, you lose the same number as you did you gained in that blowout.
Okay, so the point differential, it doesn't matter if it's not like blowing somebody out.
You can't get 70 points. You can't set the.
You only get 15. Okay.
Right, you get 15. Okay, so there's a 15-point limit, which makes it okay-ish, but I don't know. It's just, what if just having a bad night sucks and then it costs you everything, or an injury costs you. I don't know. It's just weird. I love the way y'all's works out.
I think it took a while for us to get used to it. And for those who don't know, we use a system called PowerPoints that has nothing to do with Screen Beans or Microsoft or anything like that. It essentially, I forget exactly how it works, but it's like you get X number of points for a win, and then you get, let's say that if a 3A plays a 3A, you get 10 points for a win. But if a 3A beats a 4A, you get 12 points for that win. And then you get points for every game that team wins. So let's say that we beat so this also goes to playing a 2A. So let's say that we played it. I can't remember exactly how it all works, but let's say we played a 2A. We got a little bit less points because we beat a 2A, but that's a really good 2A. And they win 8 games. Well, we get 2 points for every game that they win. So playing a good 2A, you're going to get a lot of bonus points, even though you don't. So it it incentivizes because without that, who would go play a 1A or a 2A, right? There would be no reason to ever play them. But with that, there's some incentive to play lower level schools and get those competitive games. And so that was originally that was for the fact that all these traditional games, what happened was we went from 1A, 2A, 3A to expanding to 6A. And so we were a 3A. Teams that were a 3A with us became 6A. We became 3A. And so some of the 6As were too big for us to be playing, but the 5As and the 4As, the incentive for them to continue playing us was that. Now, when the school, I keep saying I'm not coaching there anymore, but this is the school that I was at most recently.
Right.
When they were bad, it was a little bit difficult to get somebody, other than the fact that you could get a win. You knew you were going to schedule a win, but if you were a really good school, like let's say you were a dominant 4A, you don't really want to play us because there's no points to be had when you beat us.
Right.
You could go play a better 3A and beat them, or you could play a better 2A and beat them, and they win 8 games, and you're going to beat them because so the scheduling becomes difficult. And then they did an interesting thing, which was when you lose to a team, you get power points when they win. And so that was the incentive for the dominant team. You may not want to play them. Like, why would we want to go play a dominant 5A or 6A? Well, we got some points for losing to a 5A, more points than we would get for losing to a 3A or a 2A. And then when that 5A went and won 8 games, we got a point for each one of those too. So in that way, the downside of it is you can literally schedule yourself into the playoffs. Part of the reason behind that is they put so many teams in the playoffs. There are some teams that there's an 8-team conference, 8 teams go to the playoffs. Like, so we've had teams that go 0-11 because they're 0-10. And look, nobody wants. I've known coaches who have been in that situation, and they're like, I just want it to be over. Like, I don't, because you're the 8 seed now going to play the 1 seed. You lost the first 10. You don't want this. Like, please put a 9th team in our conference. You don't want this, but it happens, and that's some conferences. And in another conference, and I don't know why this part is, in other conferences, there'll be 12, 13 teams. And, why don't they just pop a couple of those in? It's not that, like, one of them, it's not that far away. Like, it would be very easy to just pop one of those teams, over and be like, okay. And sometimes I think that's what they look to do when because teams do move up and down from 3A and 4A and back.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting system. It can take a little bit to understand, but I got to the point where I could, like I said, I don't remember it all right now. I had to look it back up, but all the rules are there. You can do the math. There are people who will be on, X and stuff and posting like the scenarios for you. So, you always got somebody who's a little more math inclined and a little more into it than you are. And they'll give you all the scenarios.
I would have a spreadsheet built by week 0.
Yeah. But you're right. It does, like, in most scenarios, like, you would only check out of curiosity. In most places, you would only check out of curiosity to see what the team that you played in week 1 did in week 8. They're out of conference, they're this and that. It's like, no, they won. We got 2 points. If they win, we get this. And so it creates some interesting scenarios, but it's fine. I think it's a good system.
I think ours is a little lacking in the fact that I can beat a team that beats everybody else by 15, and I don't have a shot to beat them, to get a higher seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So wins and losses is first, but then point differential is the next one. So anyway,
I think that's probably the one thing, is that you can end up with more power points, even though you have, you can be 3-7 and have more power points than a 6-3 team because of who you scheduled and who you played. But I mean, it's kind of like, just if you looked at, strength of schedule, it's a point system that equates to strength of schedule, just
an
like
objective point system too, right? Like very objective. Like schedule up and you get more points.
And so, but I mean, it is possible. There's lots of scenarios, but I think at first nobody liked it, but because it's hard to understand at first. Once you start to realize how the points work, you can use it to a massive advantage to schedule yourself in. And then you can schedule yourself into the playoffs in a lot of scenarios. But, once you figure it out, it's not bad.
Right. Looks like Ohio is similar to you guys. So that's pretty neat. I'd be interested to see like every state's playoff. I'm not interested enough to go do it. Put the time into it. It would be interesting.
I do. We talked to teams, and there's a lot of teams where everybody, because you can talk about, well, they can schedule themselves in the playoffs. There's a lot of states where everybody makes the playoffs. So I think Illinois is one where they only play 9 regular season games. Everybody's got a playoff game, and then it's like, you're essentially playing for seeding, and that can be a big deal. If you go into a 16 team bracket, it's a hell of a lot different to go in as a 16 seeds than to go in as an 8.
Yeah.
So just say everybody makes the playoffs, like kind of like. But if you go in as the 16 against the 1, like, yeah, you're in, and every once in a while there might be something wild, but you're probably not.
Missouri does a weird 9-game season, and then week 10 is everybody's first round.
Yeah, I think that's the way Illinois works.
Everyone plays 10 games guaranteed, but
yeah,
the 10th week is the playoffs. So it's man, I don't know.
There's a few states that do that, and you can argue that it's everybody make the playoffs, but.
Well, I look forward to getting a few of these this last non-district game out of the way, and then we'll get into our district play and really see who we are as a team. So this should be really good. I think we're poised to do big things. Real quick, and get to our power minute. I know it's a little bit late in the episode to get into a power minute, but we will. Tonight we're talking strategies to neutralize mobile quarterbacks. I'm sure you read the title. We can't stop dual threat quarterbacks, which is the bane in everyone's existence. I mean, Vic tore up the Jalen Hurts is doing it now. Lamar Jackson, right? These are guys that are still, nobody can stop them. So there's a want to have, but you got to be able to stop them as well. Pass rush lane integrity is the first thing we're going to talk about, and then teaching pass rush contain rules. So who's supposed to go get the dude when he breaks the pocket, and then manipulating the quarterback to do what you want, which would be the big X's and O's portion of this episode. Last week we talked about we struggled to get pressure on the quarterbacks, really just getting back to that pass rush, the fundamentals, the basics. So if you're looking for that, you can go find that wherever your podcast getting place is. Then next week, we'll talk about our practices feel stagnant and boring, which I feel like we've all been there. Life has changed for a lot of people are moving on from that, right? And so if you haven't and you feel that way, we're going to talk about some ways next week to change things. Real quick, if you've heard anything on this podcast through any of the episodes you've listened to that changed the way you coach, please share it. Today's episode might be that one for somebody else. Could have been pass rushes, could have been any of the tagging or any of the stuff we've done along the way. So please do share the episode. This might be the good one for somebody. Joe, let's hear your level up, man.
Yeah, I feel like we've done a lot of things that were like cool, but I don't know that there's a specific level up. I'll just say that we did for JDFB, we did our quarterly planning, which I know sounds off, but I do my quarters by my strategic coach program because it's really a big event for me. So I go September 9th, I go back December 9th. So that's my quarter. It's the first time that we've done it really. I've always done quarterly planning basically alone. We now have a fractional integrator, which is kind of like a part-time COO who has helped organize the business, make it feel like I'm running a business sometimes, along with some other team members, and sat down and did a 3-hour meeting on Monday morning at 8 a.m. over Zoom. It's quite a way to start the week, but I mean, just coming out of it with like some clarity on where we're going and where we're heading. And I think that, I can take that and point that to anybody, and just sitting down and really planning. I don't know that when you do that, I'm not to a point where I can say like, this is what's going to happen. We even talked in there about, a month in, I don't know where we're going to be, but like, let's try to make this something that actually 3 months from now, we're like hitting these goals, we're making these strides. We're, instead of like a month in, 2 of them are done, and 2 months in, 2 of them are, done the other way. Like they're not going to happen. It's like, well, now we just got a month of just like, what do you do? So I think we're getting close to that. We're actually still working on it. We're gonna come back next week and kind of finish it up. We kind of split up to just solve some things. But I think that sitting down and doing some long-term planning, especially for football coaches and business, if you're somebody like me who's running a business and doesn't really know much about business, and other than the fact that you've been doing it for a long time, but you feel like you're never going to do that planning because you're constantly working. You're doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you're just working. You don't have time to sit down and plan. But there's a huge benefit to sitting down and plan out your off season, plan out your, if you're in the middle of the season, what does the rest of the season look like? Obviously, we talk about practice planning and planning out your week, and having a plan for stuff is a big deal.
doing a quarterly, like a stand down and just let's look at where we've been. And I know we talk about gap in the gain all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could all benefit from doing something like that. Just where were we 3 months ago?
That was a big part of it too, is looking at the previous quarter first.
Yeah, because man, we can get really caught up in just how fast this life is nowadays. And well, I mean, that book, it just kind of says it all, right? The gap in the gain. Like you get so busy chasing your goal, you forget how far you've come. So I think it's a really neat idea. And kudos to you for taking the time to do it, because my God, I don't know that I could. I guess I'd need to, especially as like multiple business owners now.
Literally flew by. It was not enough time. Honestly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, cool. My level up this week, I guess I'll just give an update on. I had kind of a rough evening. Joe texted me a little bit ago. He was like, "Hey, dude, let's jump on early today, possibly." And I was trying to squeeze in some stuff. If y'all don't know, I started food trucking last week. So it's my second week. It's new. Not a lot of people know who we are yet. So I'm just setting places for hours, twiddling my thumbs, watching Big Bang Theory, cook a fajita here and there. But so I got done and immediately went over tonight to spray the next section of food plot so I can get it all planted in. I'm a huge deer hunter, and I've never gone to this step. Like, it's time to put in an actual attractant to get deer to come to me. So many things went wrong, but I did get over and get it done, which I was kind of joking with you, Joe, before we got started here tonight. Was just 3 weeks ago when I was all work from home. Like, my truck didn't leave the parking spot in the yard for 2 weeks at a time or whatever, because I wasn't going anywhere. And now it's like I finally have, once you get up and get out and go do stuff, now I can go out and do these. Sometimes it's chores, but sometimes it's fun stuff. So I'm glad to be back doing the fun stuff like planting food plots, kind of improving my hunting area. So, but the update overall, plants are coming in great. Got some stuff sprayed and mowed and stuff today to extend. I went with some mixes on the first 2 plantings, and they're coming up okay. We kind of hit a drought time here as they probably needed some water, and now I'm going to put in wheat for the rest of it. So, but I broke my sprayer while I was trying to get it done tonight. So it was, like I said, it was a pretty rough evening. Just smashed a toenail, broke a bolt, ripped some wiring in half all at once. Let's just get it all done. So anyway.
What a week. What a day.
It was a day. Anyway, so there you go. So if you have any ideas on food plot planting, I'm on a grade of a hill that is so bad. So feel free to shoot me a DM and we'll talk about planting food plots. Yeah, let's jump in and pay the bills real quick, Joe, and we'll move on and talk some football.
Is your football team stuck in a losing tradition that you can't seem to break, and you put in hours of hard work, you do all the right things, you've tried changing the scheme, you've tried changing the culture, and nothing seems to work? You cannot break the losing cycle. When the going gets tough, when adversity strikes, the heads drop, and it's the same old, here we go again feeling. It is time to break out. My latest coaching manual is called Breaking the Losing Cycle, and it reveals how underdog teams are turning their seasons around without needing more talent or a bigger roster. Find out why teams stay stuck in the losing cycle, the secret ingredients to break out, and the quick fix solutions you can use right now to break the losing cycle for good. Go to download the free manual right now at joedanielfootball.com/breaking, or you can go to joedanielfootball.com on the homepage and get it there to break the cycle and put an end to your losing tradition now.
Breaking. What a word.
B-R-E-A-K.
English. Here we go.
Yep.
We all know speed wins games. The real question is, are you fast enough? Speed changes everything. It turns average plays into touchdowns and good players into game breakers. But here's the truth. Real speed isn't just natural. It's trained. At Athletic Speed and Movement, we show athletes how to get faster, quicker, more explosive using proven methods that translate directly to the field. Our system was built by Del Basquet, who's done it at the highest levels, being the very first speed coach in the NFL. And it works for all athletes at every level on the way down. So whether you're a coach looking to elevate your team or a parent wanting to give your athlete an edge, this is where speed starts. Go to athleticspeedandmovement.com and learn how to build real speed that shows up on game day. Don't just play the game, outrun it. Jumping to part 1 here, Joe. So we're obviously talking about the dual threat quarterbacks tonight. So I think most of our conversation tonight is about the fact that guy can run, right? We're not as much covering the taking the passing game away because, look, we have a dual threat quarterback right now. And I can tell you that generally those passing concepts are simplified and he's got a read and then go, right? Or maybe 2 reads and then go. So we're going to assume at this point that you have stopped him from throwing the ball all over the world. And so we're going to get into the now he's breaking runs and hurting us. So part 1, Joe, we're going to talk pass rush lane integrity. And this is an idea that I have found out that a lot of coaches, maybe they know it, but they can't formulate it into like a thought or a diagram, or they can't teach it to people. Although in their heads they may understand. They really get caught in this, like, the outside guy just keep contained. But we don't think about all the other guys in that pass rush group. So how do we do that? How do we teach pass rush lane integrity to our kids?
Yeah, and I want to talk about lane integrity, but I also, in the third segment, we'll talk more about the actual defending of designed quarterback runs. A lot of that comes down to your actual run fits, which we talk quite a bit about. So we're going to focus in the first part on containing that mobile quarterback, whether it is just being mobile in the pocket, getting out of the pocket, sprint outs, play actions, and then we'll get into some of the more run fits of the quarterback actually running the ball. But the very first thing, and I, you say like coaches know this, know that. Maybe they do, but we see a good amount of game film, right, and we see a lot of the same mistakes over and over and over again. And that's even with coaches that we work with. And so, we've got to stress these things. The very first thing is to establish your pass rush lanes and to teach your players what pass rush lanes mean. And so when we teach pass rush lanes, we start with a 4-man rush. And in a 4-man rush, it's very simply, to simplify it, if you have a drop back quarterback or a quarterback dropping back, the outside rushers are responsible for the outside wing, I guess is an easy way to say it, of the quarterback. So if I'm the left edge rusher, I'm responsible for what would be the quarterback's right wing. Elbow, coaches teach the outside shoulder, tip of the shoulder pad, the back elbow, any of those things. So that's the start. And those are your contain rushers. And then you have your interior rushers. And if it's a 4-man rush, our interior rushers are responsible for the near eye. And the key here is that, so if I'm a left tackle, I'm responsible for the quarterback's, his right eye, the eye to my side as he stands there if he's facing me. And a lot of it's conceptual, obviously. His eyes are going to move, he's going to turn and everything, but it's like, this is what we, if he's facing me, one guy's got his outside wing, one guy's got his near eye. So the key to this is then establishing the integrity of those pass rush lanes. And that means that if I am a near eye rusher, I can end up on the wing. And if I'm a wing rusher, I can end up on the eye. And if I'm a left eye rusher, I can end up on the right eye. I certainly can't end up on the right wing. We see a lot of that. This, coaches, is why pass rush one-on-ones that you see at camps are total bullcrap and should never be done. If you want to do it in a pass rush, if you want to do them in a camp and go, make your clips for Instagram or your social media or whatever, fine, whatever. But it's a waste of time. Stop doing it. Like, just stop allowing wide open pass rush. Like, if I'm an offensive lineman and the quarterback is a weeble wobble that cannot move, and you are allowed to free rush on me, I am, especially if you are allowed 7 seconds to do it, I am truly probably not going to win. Some of them do, but not if we're equals. I'm probably not going to win. If I'm better than you, then I'll win. But if we're equals, I'm probably not going to win because you are being given free reign. But in a game, if you are a left eye rusher, a defensive tackle left eye rusher, and I have a moderately mobile quarterback who understands escape lanes, and you cross all the way around to the right eye, or if even farther to beat me, you've opened up a B gap escape lane, and the quarterback releases and gains God knows how many yards depending on how many backs are turned. That's the reality of, and that is why you should not allow your defensive linemen to do that, because that is not the reality of pass rush. And what I see over and over and over again, and this is the first thing that I start working on in pass rush with our coaches, is defensive end jumped inside. Defensive ends started to pass rush, and I see defensive ends, not elite pass rushers by any means, not with the right angles, not with the right leverage, jumping inside. The quarterback is far more athletic. He jumps outside, and we have a D-gap escape, and they are off to the races. We see B-gap and D-gap escapes like that. And the easy thing to do is to establish rules of, if you are an edge rusher, you do not go inside of anybody. So an edge rusher, we see it both in edge rushers trying to jump inside of a tackle because they see an opportunity. And, the tackle can almost, with an athletic quarterback, the tackle can almost bait you to do that and then down block you when you jump inside and allow that quarterback to escape. I mean, you literally could just bait guys into jumping inside by oversetting and then down blocking and allowing your most athletic player to escape outside of your 4 defensive linemen. And now it's him in space, ultimate spread option, or ultimate spread run play, right? It's the ultimate RPO. He's out there. He's your best athlete. I just neutralized 4 of your guys, 4 more of them on the other field, and I've got half a field and 3 guys left. Like, I got a pretty good situation here. And one of those guys is 18 yards deep, defending a fade. Like, let's go. I'll take it. So you set out rules of you don't get inside of anybody. That also happens, by the way, if you get a slide protection. I'll see guys coming off the edge on a defensive ends coming off the edge on a slide protection, and they attack the inside of the back. That's a huge no-no. You got to attack the outside edge of the back as the edge rusher. So if you're the edge rusher, if the outside eye guy or outside wing guy, that's your job. And then you establish the rule of the interior rushers. The main rule for the interior rushers is don't cross the center line. If you cross the center line, then you've now gone from being a left eye rusher to being a right eye rusher. And that's what's opened up that interior escape. Occasionally we'll see guys who end up going all the way outside, and that's another rule to set for them, is you don't become a wing rusher. But that's not as common. And I would start with not crossing over the center to set those rules. And so you set those base pass rush lanes. And by the way, if you do a 5-man rush, the 5th, you have outside left wing, left eye, nose, the middle of the 5 guys rushes the quarterback's nose. He has a little bit more freedom, but he's rushing. He needs to stay middle, and then right wing, right edge. So that's your base of it.
Once you bring that 5th guy, is that let's get into the next part first, and then I'll ask that question, because I know we're going to talk about pass rush contain rules, right? So when the quarterback does break, because if he's a dude, and a lot of them are, right, that's what people have gone to, is just putting athletes back there. And we're still generally not putting athletes on the defensive line. They're like monsters, but a quarterback athlete's going to outrun them, so they're going to get loose sometimes. What are those rules? How do we prevent that? How do we keep our defense from breaking down, trying to keep some type of coverage integrity?
Yeah, if you are, there's always the exceptions of the freak edge rusher that's going to play in the NFL one day. It's like, yeah, kind of let him go. Like, the guys that have a knack, the guys that might be as fast as that quarterback back there, there's obviously going to be exceptions. So if somebody's listening to this going, well, my guy always gets there, it's like, yeah. And coaches are coming to see you. I assume coaches still come to see you to recruit that guy. And so that's different. But honestly, one of the most effective things you can do if you have a really athletic quarterback and you have less athletic defensive ends, and this is very counterintuitive, but it's especially if the best thing that can happen, we see teams sometimes taking what should be a wide receiver and putting them at quarterback. If the best thing that can happen is he has to sit in the pocket and go through a progression, slow the rush down. Take those defensive ends especially, and even your D tackles, just have your D tackles kind of bull rush so they can be there for Q draws and stuff. And slow the defensive end rush down to where they essentially stay outside and slow down the rush and make him stay in the pocket. What that does by slowing that rush down a little bit when they recognize, and obviously you're going to come off the ball as always, you have to key read, pass set, and then slow down the rush. I mean, again, it's counterintuitive. Most coaches won't do this, but if you slow down the rush, what will happen is when that guy goes to break contain, you're in a position to now put a foot in the ground and run flat. And the thing that you want to do as a less athletic defensive end with a more athletic quarterback trying to escape the pocket is that you don't want to try to go where he's going. You want to actually head back towards the line of scrimmage. And what that will allow you to do is to just lengthen the amount of time that he cannot escape, that he can't just turn up the field. That, as he rolls out, they often lose sight of backside rush. So you may now get, because the offensive linemen who were expecting a pocket passer or a throw from the pocket, they can't see the quarterback movement behind them. And so as the quarterback becomes mobile, the other three guys, now they get the opportunity to break away from the normal pass rush lane that the offensive lineman was expecting while still maintaining some of their integrity. But, obviously, if he goes sprinting all the way over, I can come underneath the tackle from backside, and I can now get into a chase pursuit angle. And a chase pursuit angle means I'm still chasing that back wing. I'm not going to come underneath where he can go back all the way around me. And we have that god awful thing where he goes sideline to sideline to sideline, and he's just, this is the total meltdown. But I can now extend and allow some chase pursuit to get there on him. And then I can also add in the next element of getting a player out of coverage who's going to come up to help contain him. But you really want your linemen, your edge rushers to slow down a little bit if they're expecting him to escape, and they can actually get back towards the line of scrimmage with him.
There's a really good example of this. Brock Purdy fell into that trap. A young man by the name of Perion Winfrey, who is currently starting for the Dallas Cowboys, ate his lunch because Brock rolled all the way to the sideline, and the D-line kept him right where it might have even been an outside backer or whoever had come up. And when he put his foot in the ground and went back to the center of the field, there was a defensive tackle that had a full head of steam and cleaned him up. So that's a great play. You can go look it up. Iowa State versus Oklahoma. I don't even know how many moons ago that was. That was so long ago, it seems like. But yeah, so excellent. And kind of the next piece of that is, how do you get a DB or a backer into the fit? And everyone has their own rules, but theoretically, especially, you're in the Joe Daniel program, you're listening to this, you're probably using Joe Daniel football, and there's one rule, and it's much better than that, than most of the other ones I've seen. So why don't you explain that to us, Joe? How do we get a backer or a DB down there?
The biggest mistake we see is that when the quarterback breaks contain, and again, we'll teach this from a basic cover 3 first, but it works for everything. The only thing it doesn't work for is a true cover 0 where you don't have anybody else available. Everybody's back. So again, that's the thing where I've got a 6-man rush. But so at our Tiger Cat blitz, just as an example, which is Coach Mountjoy recently passed away. Coach Mountjoy taught me the Tiger Cat blitz years ago. I think got it from the University of Florida, and which I think got it from Hamilton or whatever in Canada. It's like the whole, goes back to the Tiger Cat. The beauty of that is that you get a 6 or a 7-man rush, but the thing that people miss out on, we actually had this discussion on our forum, on our coaching community the other day. Tiger Cat is not a pin your ears back and go. Tiger Cat is actually delay blitzes by everybody but the defensive lineman. It takes all of the pass coverage responsibility away from them. And so you actually delay blitz them, because if you pin their ears back and go and some sort of rush lane opens up and that quarterback takes off, that's bad.
You'll have a dude.
The other 5 backs are turned, gone, or 4, or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's the only exception where you don't have something built in. And in our Tiger Cat blitz, we do have something built in for that. And that we teach in our 4-2-5 defense system inside JDFB. We've adapted it for everything, but I still come back to coaches and say, you know what, you want it to be the best it can possibly be, just install it with a 4-2-5 front. It doesn't matter. It's the only thing you're going to run out of the 4-2-5. It'll be fine. But we have ways to run it out of the 3-3 and the 3-4 and the 4-3 as well. If a player, the basic rule is this: if a player breaks contain, and we'll start this from a basic cover 3, if the quarterback breaks contain, the natural thing that happens is that the flat defender, whether it's an outside, whether you want to call him an outside linebacker or an overhang safety. And again, I get back to this. It's such a stupid discussion these days because everybody's given them names now. They're all animal names. They're all bats and dogs and birds and hawks. And people are like, well, he's not as strong. That's not a 4-4. It's a 4-2. It's not a 4-2. It's a 4-4. It's like, what do you call that guy?
Batman and
call him a
Robin.
donkey. So he's not a safety or a backer. What's the difference? But anyway, just give him your mascot name and don't worry about whether it's a 4-4 or 4-2, and don't tell anybody and don't talk to him about it. Just give them all names and then put them in the right spot. So your bat, your dog, your bird, your fly, your kitten, whatever it is out there, he's standing out there in the flat, and the quarterback breaks contain. Don't call him a kitten. That's stupid. He breaks contain, and that flat defender comes running up because he sees the quarterback is broken contain, and the flat defender comes up. Well, the flat defender, the quarterback is running toward the flat. His body is turned that way as he escapes. You then come out of the flat, leaving an intermediate route 12 yards deep, wide open for an easy throw over your head. And now what could have been a quarterback scramble that if you had stayed at your 12-yard depth and he did break the line of scrimmage, you make a tackle and it's a 4 or 5 yard gain. Obviously, there's a chance he gets more because he's a good athlete. But if you do that, you open up easily an 8 to 15 yard pass, and then who knows what's happening because I don't know, the corner's backs turn with the fade or whatever. So the rule is whoever the play side hook curl defender is, not the flat defender, the play side hook, and it's almost always the play side linebacker, comes out of coverage. And he goes to attack the outside shoulder of the quarterback, and he now becomes the secondary pass contain. When he does that, he actually comes up to an area where your short throws can be taken away as well. Your strong safety, your outside linebacker stays in the flat. Your flat defender stays in the flat where that intermediate throw is being taken away. The roll side, the escape side linebacker comes up to contain that quarterback. And again, the goal, when you say this, he comes out of coverage. His goal is not to go sack the quarterback. Remember that we're often talking about guys who are way more dangerous if they run than if we make them throw. Now, they're already more dangerous when they get on the move and they get to create. But now we have the issue of, you talk about like a Mahomes and the things that Pat Mahomes can do when he's just when he's out of the pocket and he's creating are some of the most amazing things. And that's what he's already dangerous. You don't want to let him run because that's the ultimate spread play, is best athlete on the field out in space. So we're coming up to contain him, not necessarily to sack him. So we have to be of that mind. Chances are if we try to go sack him, he's going to make a move. We're going to miss him. Like, he's a superior athlete. As he comes up, the backside coverage, the backside hook defender, to the backside linebacker in a cover 3, he now rolls over to replace. But remember that the quarterback's momentum is going away. It's very, very difficult for him to throw the ball. We kind of want him to try to throw the ball all the way back across his body as long as our backside safety, backside flat defender is still in coverage there, because it's going to be a very, very difficult throw. It's going to be almost impossible to throw the ball into the hook zone, and there's probably no route sitting in the hook zone backside. So we now rotate that over, and it becomes a 3 under, 3 deep type of look, with the back coming, with the linebacker play side coming up to contain. And of course, we have the pursuit of the defensive lineman coming. So we want to slow that quarterback down to allow the pursuit to get there. And we kind of rotate that coverage of the underneath coverage. We don't want anybody coming out of the flat defense because that's the direction that he's headed. We don't want, obviously, anybody out of the secondary coming out. That works for cover 3. For cover 1, we would bring the low hole defender out of coverage. We usually have a low hole defender. So when we're rushing 4, again, you start rushing 5, you start rushing 6, cover 1. That changes. In quarters, you usually have some sort of a middle low hole hook curl defender that can come out as well.
The idea of using or converting it to like a 3 over 3 deep, I think, is escapes some people. You get stuck trying to continue using your original. I guess if you're like a split field quarters or you're a read 2 guy, you're not really changing much anyway. But
right,
because those guys they're going to a version of man no matter what, right?
Sure.
But if you're in a zone coverage of
but I mean, even your underneath, you say that, but even your underneath rarely ever becomes a true, like, fully matched type of thing. It rarely
wall somebody to somebody and work under somebody. Right. Yeah. 100%. So using that guy because he's kind of there without a job. The other receivers have already been taken by someone else. It just makes sense. But we get to where, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, if you start yelling at your corner because he didn't come out of coverage on a hitch to stop the quarterback, or maybe it's a slant, or maybe it doesn't matter what the route is.
Yeah.
We're mad at him because, well, it's cover 2 and you were the flats defender. That means you're supposed to get that guy. Cool, coach. Who covers
Who's got the flat?
Who's got the comeback? Right? So yeah. We gotta assign one dude. And the one I've always fallen on is yours, and just play side inside backer. You're coming down, and the other guy just works back over the top. So I think that's the easiest way for sure.
Yeah, it's not flawless. I mean, again, we're talking about one of the best athletes on the field. It's not flawless, but it is, especially if you take good angles and you think about the angle of the guy rolling out. If you got a good drop and you're 12 yards deep, now you're coming up, you have the angle to get there. If you didn't drop, if you're at 5 yards, you're gonna have a really tough time getting there. But if you got a good drop when you got the pass read, then you have an angle to now come up. You got to the hash, you can now come up and defend the numbers that way.
So when we're talking kind of like the force guys here, and we're talking CBR, cutback boot reverse, for y'all that don't know what CBR is, where does that handoff occur? Because my outside backer or safety or whatever I'm calling him this week is generally CBR. If it is boot out to your side, it's in the word boot, but now they're running a flood concept back to me. So I'm the boot player, but I'm also supposed to stay in the flats because it's cover 3. So when does the handoff happen to where I'm not actually the boot player? I'm passing that off to that inside backer.
For us, and I don't know what everybody else does, nor do I care. That boot does not mean he is responsible for the quarterback on the boot. It means he is staying home so that if the boot comes back his way, there is no reason for him to go chasing the run all the way across the field. It is only for him to sit there and go, and we have him sit there and sing it to himself. Counter, reverse, bootleg. I always counter, reverse, bootleg, but counter, bootleg, reverse, whatever. And when he comes back, I drop into coverage. And so now I've dropped into coverage and your drag route is eliminated. Or for example, what's one that we see a lot of that's a really popular one is the slide route, where an H back on the other side comes across all the action. You're showing stretch. We call it 26 naked. You're showing that stretch action one way, and an H back or a Z comes sliding all the way across the formation into the flat. That's what I'm sitting home for, not for the quarterback actually booting out. The quarterback actually booting out is still the responsibility of the defensive end. And then, and we could get in trouble with that, but if it's much worse if I come out of coverage and allow that open space.
Yeah, and I think some people kind of lose sight of that. It's like, well, you're forced. You're supposed to force. You're the outside. You're contained. Well, we've just said that we have
different deals. Yeah.
Yeah, we just said we have a contained rusher. We have a contained player, and then this is like a third step. So multiple people can be the contained player, depending on what we're talking about, right? I think it's very important.
Pass, contain, and force are two different scenarios, two different things, because I know that if I'm the force defender on the run is not the same as I've got to contain the quarterback. And that's another reason why using the force term is better than using contain, because contain again fits in multiple places. Now you could go the other way and say, look, I'm going to use contain for this, and I've got a different word for the contain rusher on pass, but I don't know. It's just, to me, it's force a change of direction, and then the contain rusher on the pass, keeping him bottled up in that pocket.
Yes, for sure. I love it. All right, so let's get into this is kind of the biggest part for me, I think, of this episode. It's how can we manipulate that quarterback to do what we want? So obviously the threat here, and sometimes you even want him to have to sit in the pocket. The threat is for him to get outside. So what are we doing X's and O's wise that allows us to keep a running quarterback in the pocket, or at least try to escape up the middle where all of our people are sitting, right? Like, I mean, if he's going to pull the trigger and he's going to run, you're probably not going to stop that without leaving a route wide open. So how are we changing up our X's and O's to not necessarily become weaker everywhere else, but we do gain a strength in keeping him contained?
So we want to look at a few things, and there's opportunities to use blitzes here. There's opportunities to use different things. I want to mention real quick on the dual threat run game. The number one thing on the dual threat run game is if it's base run, that is base run fits. So there's not like a special answer to a true quarterback power. It's like squeeze down, spill it, force. It's base run fits. It's just a quarterback running instead of a running back. So there's not a lot to talk about there. other than the fact you could plus a defender on him. For guys talk about, some different things you can do. There are things like spy techniques that we didn't even talk about that I think are worthwhile. There is the issue of who do you have that you want to take, like who do I want there? I've occasionally, several years ago, we had our best linebacker. He's one of the best linebackers I've ever coached. Maybe the best pound for pound linebacker I've ever coached. He was undersized, but he was physically and mentally one of the best linebackers I've ever coached. I trusted that kid because he would use, even though he wouldn't be as fast as that quarterback, he would know the angles, he would know the leverage, and he could make that tackle in the open field, or at least get him to the sideline, or he could use all of that. But for the most part, you don't have anybody that can spy that quarterback that can actually match him in a one-on-one. And so you have to be very careful in spy. Is like, who do I spy with? If the scenario is they have 4 receivers that aren't that good and a quarterback who's a stud, then I might take my free safety. I've done cover 0 with a 7-man box, and the free safety has just been like basically over the court. He's been the spy, but he's been on the quarterback. We've done that and messed with some stuff like that, but you have to know that you have a serious advantage. That's almost saying, look, that's not a dual threat quarterback. That's a runner that's taking the snap when we do that, which is a whole different scenario. And that's just, you got that good run defense. And I want to talk about the run game before we go back to the pass game in this respect. More often we see now option quarterbacks, spread option quarterbacks. And in that case, you have to understand the best option plays and you have to understand the reads and play your read defender. So if it's a zone read, play him in a way that you're going to get a give. If you expect a zone read, we call it a Q tag, and we would tag our weak side defensive end with a Q. We would just say Q tag. And that Q tag would tell, or we could tag both of them. If we're running 4-2-5, we could run an indie front with double 2 eyes, inside shade of the guards, or we could not. But we can tell double Q, or we can tell weak Q, or we can Q tag where if you are the read, just sit. Because that means that the read for the quarterback is now give. And if that's what you want, manipulate the quarterback, get the ball out of his hands and get into the running back's hands. You're doing that at the expense of weakening your rush, or you're not, because as long as your linebackers are good, you're okay. It's better with the unblocked, if you don't want the running back to make a play, you bend that defensive end hard down the line of scrimmage. He's unblocked. He can tackle the running back. Whether you tango technique or whatever, you gap exchange the linebacker. And if your linebacker can match the quarterback, you can make that tackle. That's all well and good. But if I want to make sure that it gets out of his hands, I can give him the Q tag. If I want him to, like things like RPOs, if he's a really good RPO quarterback, I want to slow down, not my inside linebackers. I can't do that, but I want to make sure that I have the don't go till rule in place that we teach in JDFB for our overhangs, so that he doesn't get easy bubble reads or easy stick reads that are out there. So those are things that we can do with RPO and with the option game to just try to get the ball manipulated out of his hands. Now we get back to the quarterback. I need to look at what type of escapes does he like. We hear about quarterbacks who always escape to their right, or always is. And in that case, we want to either put our best edge rusher over there, or we want to run single edge pressures where I'm bringing a safety and running a cover 0 or running a cover 1, or I'm bringing a backer off of that blitz with some sort of a game, especially if I have a lineman, if he likes to escape to the right and I have a tackle that I can manipulate, I might use some, games to create that. If I know that I can pin the tackle hip and loop the nose, if I got an athletic nose or tackle that can loop out there, he's got his momentum going the right way, I can do some games like that where we are game planning to put something on the right that's going to get free and give us a chance that we know he wants to escape to the right. Let's get something on the right, whether it's a single edge pressure, bringing a backer, bringing an overhang safety, or doing some sort of a line games twist type thing. That's one. If, obviously, it's wherever he wants to escape. If we know where he wants to escape, we can do that. If we know that he likes to try to escape up the middle, we can run pinches and then have like a 5-man pressure where we kind of pinch into a bear front with a bull rush nose and really pack up the middle and then slow down our edge rushers so that, we know he doesn't want to escape around the edges. We can fold back in and help. Those are cases where you could even use a spy if he's a middle escaper. That's not a lot. Not a lot of quarterbacks are great middle escapers. Some of them are, though. Here it is. This is the one time, everybody. This is the one time where it makes sense. If he is a chicken with his head cut off back there, and you don't know where he's going to go, but you know he's going to
this is going, and I'm going to clip this and save it for the next time when you say that's the laziest
you should
call.
run. If he is going to escape one way or the other, but you don't know which, and to be quite honest, he doesn't know which, double edge pressures with middle pressure, slow down the middle, double edge pressure, collapse the pocket on him, make him step up into your control in the middle. You can bull rush in the middle so that you don't over pressure. Tiger Cat creates this as well, but you get that double edge pressure where he cannot escape. And those double edge pressures like Tiger Cat, you don't want it to be pin your ears back, because if they get pinned, he's going to escape, and now you're really in trouble because you brought a pressure and you overdid it. What we wanted that double edge pressure is to be kind of a delay control pressure, because we want to keep that guy in the pocket, make him sit in the pocket, make him throw, make him go through his progression. So I think that's a big one as well.
No judgment from Joe on the double edge pressure in this position. I love it.
If you use it in the right place.
It's going in the show notes. No judgment from Joe. Here we go. The ability to manipulate him and make him kind of see what you want to see, I think, is huge. You can do it with your coverage as well, I believe.
I think that was the one thing I didn't get into is, you can absolutely control him with some coverage as well, depending on, if you can disguise some coverage and slow him down processing that way. Yeah.
Because there's not, you got to be careful saying always or never, right? Those aren't terms you can really use in football, but generally, when a coach is in a position, they're putting the athlete back there. That means he probably isn't good enough to read and dissect a coverage, right? So that means maybe he's taught, like, look in the flats. If there's no one there, we're hitting this quick little out route or our little, right? We're going to give him some type of a check down. If he can just simply identify yes person, no person, throw the ball over there. So, you can get into a coverage where maybe it's part of your disguise that week, even is just putting people in the very short areas, forcing his hand to wait, to take his steps, to read something deeper and throw a deep ball, or now we get him on the run, which I understand may not be what you want. You may not have the guys that can run with him, even if you do get him on the run. But, you may be able to bait him and leave those check downs open early and then play him a little harder later or something, right? So X's and O's wise, I think you can start playing the games with the OC. That I don't know that you're playing them so much with the quarterback. You give him something, a flash to see and get him to react whatever way you want. You talked about, Joe, if you can get him to go right or left, a direction he's uncomfortable with, or make him try to go up the middle when that's not what he's comfortable with, that's great. And kudos to you. But I think you can start hiding your coverages, not even like the normal stuff we would see, rolling from too high to a cover three or starting in cover three and then bailing out to something. But just showing him, I have too many people for you out here. You're going to have to throw the ball this time, right? It may just be setting people out there in the flats like, dude, if you're going to sprint over here, we already have a kind of a guy waiting. Maybe alignment with your D-line, right? Just showing some. I can remember when I was in high school, we used to stick our D-line, and we'd like angle them in, and they would be in a very wide 9, like an 11 if it went that wide. And they were kind of doing the same thing, just forcing those offensive tackles to play really good pass pro because they generally couldn't. They couldn't get back there quick enough. But it's kind of the same thing for the quarterback. Like, look, man, you see the angle's not good for you to come this way. You can kind of force him to go the other way. But that gets away from the more technical gap exchange and stuff, which is what we really want, which gets more into the reading quarterbacks and the, changing his reads or forcing his reads.
You get into the games that you can play, and it's really, from our position, it's really difficult to say, like, this is a good idea, because a lot of those ideas, a lot of just ideas and things that we've talked about, a lot of them are fundamentally unsound. You have to know that you've got a tendency, or you've got something that you have to stop, or like I said, if this guy escapes to the right, we are dead. So we are going to overload the right. And, there's things that you can do on the offensive line or the defensive line, like slanting and stunting to manipulate what he sees. There's things that you can do in, showing press and bailing that manipulate what he's thinking pre-snap, and also can give some different looks to especially sometimes you get check with me's where the OC is making those calls and you want to show different looks. You got to know what the tendencies are and what you can get away with and what you're willing to. I got yelled at one time at a meeting when I was very young.
Me too.
I got yelled at for doing the devil's advocate thing one too many times about what about this and what about that. And my head coach slammed his fist on the whiteboard and said, "You can't stop everything." Now, he was right. Matter of fact, we couldn't stop anything. We weren't very good. But, he was right. Like, let's stop one thing. Like, let's find one thing we can stop and make us beat us with the other 28 pages of things that we can't stop. But, he was absolutely right. You have to sit down and go, okay, look, we're not going to stop everything. Can we get him to do the 5th or 6th or 7th thing and at least beat us? If he's going to beat us with that, or beat us with just being special. I remember we played a kid, and it was Hopewell, and it was one of the Taylors years ago. They're all Taylors and Hendersons there. They're all really good. Travion's the most recent. Not the most recent, actually. He had a little brother. But
that figures.
We weren't real good, and they were real good. And we got to halftime. I want to say it was 0-0 or 7-7 or something like that. We got to halftime, and we were playing above our heads. And we are playing really good football defensively. And that kid came out of the locker room in the second half and just made a decision. He wasn't, I don't even know what the decision was, but from my vantage point, the decision was, I'm not reading anything anymore. I'm not making, I've made the decision. I'm going to win this game. And he won the game. And I think we ended up losing like 28-7. And it was the show was, and there are times, but I can say this, for a half, what we planned to do, we took away as many things as we could. And then he was breaking out of tackles with 2-3 guys on him, and it's like, I try to talk to coaches about that stuff sometimes where it's like, they'll talk about, our defense didn't do this or our defense didn't do that. And I'm like, that guy just broke 3 tackles.
Right.
It's not schematic. It's not. And maybe even the fit on the tackles wasn't bad other than, just grab and hold on. That's the only thing you need to work on. But like, that's not a schematic issue. Your defense, playbook wise, game planning wise, it was great. That guy,
they got duded.
We have one of our coaches who coaches at youth level, and he was like, I don't know what to do. Adjust this, blitz that, do that. And I watched, he sent the films, platinum client. I was like, well, his kids are, 13 and under. I'm like, well, they had a grown man playing tailback. You were hitting him with great angles, but you're hitting him with a 110-pound kid, and he looks like he's about $195. He's 6'2". Like, there's no blitz that fixes that. This worked. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the dude's just a dude, but we do everything we can to take that away.
Oh man, my kids are scared to tackle him. Well, hell, I am too. I don't
me.
Yeah, I'm not tackling him.
A lot faster too. Probably less likely to break.
Oh man. All right, Joe, man. I think we've checked all the boxes for the evening. I want to remind you all to refer somebody to the show. Okay. Remember, coaches don't grow in a vacuum. They grow by sharing ideas. We all steal ideas all the time, right? Because luckily Twitter football is still pretty good. That Coach Dan Casey guy, I'm not one to just put other people out there, but Lord have mercy, man. He's all over it. So that's a way to grow. Or if you want to learn how to do it when you don't have a monster at every position, Football Coaching Podcast is for you. So send this on to someone. Pass this show on, this episode, maybe your favorite episode, whatever it is. Maybe it's a video game episode or quarterbacks, running backs. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. Tonight we talked about strategies to neutralize mobile quarterbacks. Talked pass rush lane integrity. teaching pass rush contain rules to your defense and then manipulating quarterback to do what you want. Last week, we talked about we struggled to get pressure on the quarterback. And next week, it's our practices feel stagnant and boring. Joe, let's pay the bills.
It's my favorite topic.
One more time. Pay the bills.
All right. If you've tried everything and your team is stuck in a losing tradition and you cannot seem to break it, and every time that you think you've got something going, as soon as a little something bad happens, everybody's head drops and it's here we go again. It's time to break out of that losing cycle. My latest coaching manual is called Breaking the Losing Cycle, and it reveals how underdog teams are turning your season around without needing more talent or a bigger roster. You're going to find out why teams stay stuck in that losing cycle, the secret ingredients to break out that teams we're seeing every single week in the JDFB chalkboard community. We're seeing coaches every single week in our weekly winners post talking about breaking out of the losing cycle, doing things that haven't been done in a decade at their school. First, we had a 26-game losing streak broken. Just amazing things. Breaking out of that losing cycle. Get the quick fix solutions you can use right now. You don't need to wait until next year and some Greek guy comes walking through the door to save your program. Do it right now. You don't need to wait for another year in the weight room. Do it now. Go to download the free manual at joedanielfootball.com/breaking, BREAKING, or you can just go to joedanielfootball.com and get it right there from the homepage. There's a little drop down at the top that says guides. Go and get it. Break the losing cycle. Put an end to your losing tradition now.
Speaking of X's and O's, I know we're paying the bills here. athleticspeedmovement.com. Go over there. Sign up. It's great for you. It's great for your kids. It's great. I need to know your thoughts on the new terminology of the coffee house blitz or coffee house stunt. What are your thoughts?
Don't know.
Doesn't ring a bell?
I'm not on.
There's a whole thing now where linebackers, we just double a mug and one of them bails. And you can do it anywhere, but generally out of the mug. And they're calling it coffee house blitz.
That's new?
I don't think the technique is. I think the terminology is. I kind of wonder.
Good for you. Good for making up a new call. We ran that in 2009 against Joliet when I was at Ellsworth. Ricky Kuhn, true trendsetter, running that against Joliet. Ran an empty formation. We were blowing them out at halftime. We were in Joliet, I think it's north of Chicago suburb. And we're absolutely just owning them. I think it's 27-0 at halftime. They got into an empty formation, and we didn't really have great answers for it. And we ran it was an up call, and then we just did different things where we would bail both, or we would stack them, and they would read off of the center. And the center went this way, one went, and it was, and if the center stepped at one of them, that one bailed, and the other one rushed. That kind of stuff. And we were doing that in 2009.
There's more to it that I just realized.
I'm sure.
The linebacker will pretend to bail out and then delay blitz.
Okay.
I'm for it. I don't know about
renaming. Holding the ball for that long. That's their fault.
You're right. It worked in the NFL last night.
Okay. NFL. 7-step drop, 19 reads. Great. If you're sacking high school quarterbacks doing that, they're holding the ball too dang on long.
That's true.
Like, there's a whole different issue there. High school quarterbacks should be getting the ball out. 99% of the quarterback passing that I've ever seen in high school at least is not designed to hold the ball that long, and they'd be screaming at the quarterback. Have fun.
100%. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. I just broke it up with that little.
Maybe if you ran athletic speed and movement, your kid could bail, put a foot in the ground, and delay blitz like that and get there. But only if you have really committed to athletic speed and movement.
Otherwise, no chance.
No chance.
Do we know what sales are opening or closing this wonderful Thursday? Tuesday. It is Thursday, the 25th.
On Thursday, the 25th, no, we just closed our something else offensive line. So not at this time. I know in October we'll be opening up. Plan in October is to open up JDFB weight room. Have a little. It's open all the time because we know coaches have to get in. But the JDFB weight room in October, and then football coaching 101 series in November. But nothing coming out that week. No.
Love it. Social media wise, I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can find me at, I don't know, probably the same thing on Facebook. It's under Daniel Chamberlain, Daniel Bryce Chamberlain. I don't know. My middle name's in there. I created it when I was 10 or something. Chamberlain Football Consulting at gmail.com is my email. I don't know how old I was. I was probably like in high school when Facebook came out. It was only for college kids back then.
Yeah.
You had to sneak in. You had to know somebody that knew somebody to get a college.
You know what's sad is that
email.
I was a teacher at the time when it was doing that, and I had to take a recertification class at the local community college, and they gave me an email address, which of course I would never use for anything, but I used it for that.
There you go. You made a
Yeah.
Facebook. And then we started giving the world all of our data. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Shoot me an email, DM, talk to me. We'll talk ball. Joe, where are you at, sir?
Email is joe@joedanielfootball.com. I am on the socials at football info on X. Everything else is at Joe Daniel Football on TikTok, on Twitter. I don't know, not Twitter. Instagram, facebook.com/Joe Daniel Football on Facebook. And what am I missing there?
TikTok.
I did that at Joe Daniel Football.
Oh.
Yeah, we're good. Oh, YouTube's the YouTube. If you want to watch the podcast, we
Which is
do
pretty
post
hilarious.
podcasts on Tuesdays. So the new podcast goes out on Thursday. YouTube goes out. Yeah.
The many facial hairs of Daniel Chamberlain.
You can find my YouTube channel at joedanielfootball.com/YouTube. It's a weird handle.
Joe, are we doing No Shave November? Can we just grow beardage?
My wife won't let me.
She should have been on the wife call the other night.
That's like if that's the only limitations really put down, I'll shave.
If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, primarily Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where people listen to us do our thing. If you've been listening for a while, please leave a review, especially in those two places. But really, wherever you're listening, we'd like to get good reviews. We want 5 stars, baby. If it's less than that, please shoot us a DM or something. Let us know why.
Thank you for 400 reviews, by the way.
400.
400 reviews on Apple
Podcasts.
Or 400 ratings. I don't know. There's a lot of reviews, but 400 ratings.
I love it. Thank you for 400 of you.
Yeah.
The rest of you are letting us down. I see how many downloads we get. It's more than 400. So the rest of you
need to go out there and
get us a review. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, give us a review, and win.